welcome to another episode of pianoTV. I am Allysia, your host, and today we're going to talk about Christmas music. Now, bear with me because I know it's the beginning of November if you're watching this in real time. But the thing about Christmas music is you need time to practice it. So instead of posting some Christmas videos in December like I normally do, I wanted to post a couple of Christmas videos in November in hopes that it will help you prepare for the holiday season. And I don't know how many videos are going to be in the series, probably just 2, but to start out the series, what we're going to be talking about today is basically how to pick up a songbook of Christmas music and interpret it, and most importantly, make it easier. So a lot of PVC, piano vocal chord books, are quite complicated, and a lot of Christmas music songbooks are in PVC format. If they're not that, sometimes they're fake books. Other times you'll get Christmas books with arrangements that are like 10 pages long. So we're gonna talk about focusing on the PVC arrangements, but you can apply this to other styles as well, and just how to take something that's sort of fairly standard but difficult and make it playable to your level so that you can be the piano player for your sing-alongs, because you are going to be having Christmas sing-alongs, right? That's like the whole fun of Christmas. That's not the whole fun. What am I saying? Okay, so here's what we are going to be doing in today's video. We're going to talk about how to find the melody line. It's the most important line. It's a really important line to find. How to read the chord symbols, which sometimes are in PVC, it's going to be the guitar chord symbols that you're looking at. And then how to take those chord symbols and kind of loosely follow what's written in the bass clef, but go off and do your own thing. All right, let's get started. So the Christmas book that I'm going to be using for today's episode is the Reader's Digest Merry Christmas Songbook. It does still exist nowadays. This is like a 30-year-old book. So if you find something like this, it's not going to look like this. They've probably made it nicer. Although, to be fair, considering the fact that this is a 30-year-old book, it has held up so well. It's been abused so much by, childhood Allysia and so on. The binding's beautiful. So, it's got the coil binding. I love this book. Now, this is not sponsored or anything, but this book isn't perfect. We'll talk about why I like to use it so much, but the main flaws of this book are that the melody arrangements are a lot of the times written really high, so that you're la 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 la, singing really high, which is kind of awkward, but that's what transpose buttons are for if you're using electric piano. I can't usually be bothered to manually transpose these. But the reason that I love this book is because all of the arrangements are 1 to 2 pages, maybe except for 1 or 2, which is, I'm flipping the pages and you can't see it, but to me that is highly desirable, because I don't want to be, if I'm playing music and singing and people are singing with me, I don't want to be worrying about flipping pages. I like when everything's really condensed. So that's one reason I prefer it. I also think that some of the arrangements in this book are very beautiful. There's an arrangement for the Christmas song that is just so jazzy and gorgeous, and I've learned how to play it verbatim just because I really like it. Another downside about this book, though, is that the arrangements are really challenging. Even the easiest arrangements are still really challenging. Even for me, I edit almost all of these when I sight read them for playing purposes, just because they're pretty epic. So I thought I'd show you how to simplify them to your own level. You could go really, really simple and still have something that sounds pretty good. Okay, so step 1 is to find the melody. If you're working with a Christmas fake book, this is going to be incredibly easy for you, because the only part written out on the staff is going to be the single note melody. There's a fast version of the melody of O Little Town of Bethlehem. If you're working with a book like I have, a PVC book, then the melody might be mixed in with some extra harmony notes, something like this. So what I recommend is, on a first pass, just do the melody. And the melody is pretty easy to find, because it's always going to be the soprano note. So all the harmony notes are going to be below the melody. So if you want to read through something that has a bunch of harmony notes written, just keep your eye trained to the uppermost notes in the treble clef. The reason that the soprano is always the melody is because it's the one that we hear the easiest. The lower and inner notes tend to blend and disappear a little bit more. So if you're working with a fake book and you only have the single note melody and you want to make it a little bit more complex, always add those harmony notes below, because as opposed to Like if I play the harmony on top, all of a sudden we lose the tune of O Little Town of Bethlehem. So when I sit down to play Christmas music, I don't want to sit down to practice. So if I'm sitting down to play A Little Town of Bethlehem, I'm not gonna say like, hey, I'm gonna work on this for half an hour and then just do the one Christmas song and that's it. I want to sit down and sing through a bunch of Christmas songs and not linger on them. So I like to play them as easy as I can, to be able to get start to finish without having to like stop and start a whole bunch. The easiest way to do that is just to eliminate all the extra noise on the right hand to just the single melody. And then maybe the next day I'll do Christmas songs again, and the next day and the next day, and then I kind of practice it by just playing them every day for a month. So yeah, start with the melody. To keep things really simple for the second step, which is interpreting and reading the chord symbols, what I suggest doing is just use the chord symbols as a guideline for what you're playing in the bass line. So without even having any knowledge or understanding of chords, you can do this. Because if my chord says F, I'll just play an F. If it says F diminished, I'll just play an F. If it says G minor, I'll just play a G. And that's like as simple as it could possibly get. And this won't work for every piece that you're going to do, but it'll really work with A Little Town of Bethlehem. It just takes a little bit of experimentation. So what that's going to sound like with the melody, and I'm going to play with a little pedal. Sound full or rich, but it's perfectly acceptable, and you'd still be able to sing through it and play it like that. And if you were doing like a family sing-along and you played it like that, no one would complain. It would work well. So that takes us to our third and final step, and that's look at what's written in the bass clef if you're not working with a fake book, if you have a book like mine. Usually what's happening in the bass is really complex. So in the case of this piece, we have some octaves, and then a ninth, which is kind of weird, and then a bunch of sixths, a seventh. So just various intervals. We're not even really playing chords in there. I would just say that I would interpret that. I look at that and I say, you know what? I'm going to skip all those weird sixths and sevenths. That's too much reading for me. I'm just going to do full octaves. And the octaves give everything a richer sound without having to put in a whole bunch of extra effort. So that's a good second step. Now, or third step, I guess. And then in this particular arrangement, on the third line, we have a chord changing pretty much every beat. And that's really intense. But I see this kind of like walking pattern, this chromatic thing. And then I'm gonna just look. And the other thing I'm noticing about the bass clef is the notes are written one every half, so they're half notes, so there's 2 notes a bar. So I can play it like that too. So instead of just playing the chords where I see them, I can play them every 2 beats like this. Whoop. Helps me keep the pulse and helps move things along. So in a nutshell, that's how I would interpret O Little Town of Bethlehem to make it simple but still sing-alongable. The next example that I'm going to show you is Silent Night, and this is another one-page arrangement, but it has a couple interesting additions that I find make it a very beautiful arrangement. So step 1, we want to find the melody. Easy, it's in the uppermost right-hand notes. This time we're in the key of B flat. I'm ignoring all the harmony notes and just reading the top soprano notes. And I can even do things, this one has an intro that's written out, so if I wanted to play the intro, I can just play the top notes of that too. And that simplifies things so much instead of trying to do the way it's written, which is beautiful, but I need to practice it a little bit, and again, oftentimes that's not the point of learning Christmas music. Maybe I'll get there once I'm pretty good at it, but I'm not going to start there. So step 2, reading the chord symbols. So my version has chords for the guitar that use a capo, but it also has like a clearly marked piano chord in there. So just if your music has that, just be sure to play the piano chords, not the capo chords. Okay, so since Silent Night is beautiful and lovely, an easy way to start with it is with broken chords. And I like to do open broken chords. So instead of 1, 3, 5, our B flat chord, and doing the first, third, and the fifth of the chord, I actually like to spread out my hands and do a 1, 5, 8. Actually, delete exactly what I said, because that 1, 5, 8 pattern doesn't work in 6, 8. We'd have to do this, and that kind of sounds awkward to me. What I think sounds better is 1, 3, 5, 8, 5, 3, or 1, 3, yeah, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the only broken chord pattern that really works with 6, 8 time. I just ignored the F7 and did a straight F chord. Easier. And then back to B flat. C. Sorry, I was looking at the guitar chord, E flat. So as you can see, even just doing that broken chord pattern is totally lovely. You don't need to like do anything additional. And it's great to sing along to. No one would complain about that, I don't think. But if you want to take it a step further, you can see what's written in the arrangement for the bass line. And what mine's written out as is actually the 1, 5, 8 pattern, but with a different rhythm. So instead of one note every beat, it's staggered with quarter notes and eighths. Like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So taking my cue from that, I can play the whole thing like that. I keep looking at the guitar part. Anyway, so you can play it with that rhythm, and I think that's really beautiful. But another cool thing my arrangement does is it has these little 16th note echoes, because our rhythm is a dotted eighth and a 16th note. And then my left hand has little moments in between of kind of echoing that rhythm in the left hand. And I think it just sounds really cool. So I'll show you what that sounds like. So in those little moments, I'm basically just alternating from the chord pattern that I'm not sight reading, I'm just kind of doing it based on the chord pattern I see up top. And then I see those little 16th note parts, and I actually sight read the music for those parts. And it just adds a little something something that's really nice. And then when we get to this part, the Sleep in Heavenly Peace, we have a little bit of a like a switch in the pattern. So we stop kind of that pattern, then we just switch to held notes. And I think that adds a little bit of drama to the whole thing. And back to the introduction. I simplified it substantially. So yeah, so those are some ways and ideas that you can start trying with your music. And that is all for today's video. As previously mentioned, I will do a second part for sure, maybe a third. I don't know how many topics we'll get to covering, but take these concepts and you can apply them to a good chunk of the Christmas music books that exist out there, and that'll allow you to adapt them and also to be able to use them for many, many years. I like this book because I can use it forever. I have been using it forever in my own lifetime, and I can continue using it because even if you start getting better, you can do harder arrangements of it. So, all right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I think I said my piece, so I'll see you in the next one. Hi. Yay! I need to be recording the audio. Just give me a second. Recording the audio. Yes, I am. I'm glad you can't see me dancing off screen right now.